Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I can see that people are joining. So let's wait a minute or two before we begin. For those of you who are already here, two most important questions in online reality. Can you hear me and can you see the slides? Hi, Ruby. Yes, Sylvia. Nice. Good to have you here. So Alvaro, yes, you can. Gabriela. So these are the humorous questions in online reality, whether you want it or not. We need to make sure from time to time, if you even conduct the lesson, if the slides are visible and if the sound is okay. Brazil, yes, it's fine. Good, and I appreciate that the chat is working and that you're using the chat, because we'll be using chat throughout our meeting. So loud and clear, Milenka. Great. So my name is Bartłomiej Janiak, and well, this is the Teacher Training Academy 2023, the second edition of the Teacher Training Academy. And this time we are halfway through the whole process. We started off in March. Today we talk about self-efficacy, and there are 4 sessions to go. Okay, so please remember that in the Teacher Training Academy this year we had the idea to create 2 pathways. One of them is called computer-based test masters. So anything about the test, international certificate, anything about the skills development. That's why we have the session based on skills developing listening, writing, reading, and speaking. So the next month you've got the listening skills, and in November you've got the writing skills. And there is a pathway called computer-based teaching experts. So the idea behind this pathway was to equip you with the knowledge, strongly rooted in psychology, of what can you do as a teacher, as a lecturer, to enhance the teaching reality, to implement some changes that could benefit the exam preparation period. So that's why we had a session on growth mindset. There was an element on mental simulations. Today we've got self-efficacy, and we'll deal with stress. Please remember that upon completion one of the pathways, you'll be able to get a Credly badge, so the digital credential that you can use in your professional development. And I hope you know it, but if you don't have it now, you can go to the Teacher Training Academy and you can download the digital notebook that we prepared for this year. It is editable, so you can put your notes there, and every session you'll find optional homework. So this is a short task for you that you can hopefully implement in your teaching reality and to see if it works or not. And there is also a question that you can use yourself, or you can ask this question to your student in themes that you think that are really interesting to you. And self-efficacy, okay? We'll start with self-confidence, and in a few seconds you'll know the difference between being confident, being self-confident, and the self-efficacy. But before we move on, there is a question, the first question, and a chance to use the chat. How can you tell that you are dealing with high confidence students within the language classroom? Okay, what are the symptoms that give you this information that this is a high confident? They always participate. They participate. Yes, Lillian, that's true. Anything else? They tend to ask a lot of questions. It might be tiring, but they want to know. And Ruby, yes, they want to try to share their ideas. They ask questions, they participate. They are the risk takers, Nani. Yes, I will attempt. I will try. I'm not sure, but let's give it a try. They are very enthusiastic. Might be the case. That's true. And they work in class and out. I hope that's my wish, that all the students would work within the classroom reality and outside the classroom reality. They help others too. Yes, that's okay. And what's the opposing side? Okay, what are the low confidence students? What are the symptoms? Probably it will be just the opposition of what you've just shared. They are silent. Yes, there is an element of being shy within there. Okay, I call it dirty shoes syndrome. Whenever you ask the question, your head goes down. It's like, okay, I'm gonna pretend I'm invisible and maybe different person will answer it. They try to avoid speaking. Exactly. And it's difficult to make them participate. Yes, the participation might be quite low. The challenge with the oral production might be the case. That's true. And yes, they wait for others. So there should be a first person to do something, and just I will follow the timid behavior. That's true. So in all likelihood, probably you'll get a mixture of high confidence students and low confidence students. And we shall deal with having this low element, because when you're dealing with high, you can just moderate them, just make sure that they don't jump too high, because it might be the negative effect as well. But the challenge is, what can we do to bring those lower up so that they would benefit greatly? And we'll start with the research of Albert Bandura and his notion of self-efficacy. So confidence, as he says, this is something sometimes even too general, because the confidence tell you basically that you have the strength. That's it. But it doesn't specify what this strength is about. As he quotes in his research paper, that you can be super confident that you will fail at a test. And it also shows the confidence. And he's the one responsible for coining the term self-efficacy, that he laid foundation for the development of the whole process of self-efficacy. And the self-efficacy is almost the same, but slightly different. So the self-efficacy is basically, it's the inner belief that you can produce, as the quote says, given levels of attainment. So basically, there are some specification for a particular goal, and this is your inner belief that you can produce the expected results. But the self-efficacy is not only about being able to reach a particular score during the test, but the self-efficacy is also about the belief that you can master your own environment, and you can master and control the process that will take you to this score. Because there is completely different story. I can believe I can score 90, okay, but do you think you can control the process that will lead you to this 90? Oh no, I cannot do it, because I have too many subjects, and I have brothers and sisters, and I need to work overtime. Sorry. So this is the contradictory information. So the self-efficacy is like belief that you can reach the desired score, but you can also control the process, control the environment. Okay, so this is the first element. What we know in science, there are 4 channels that either can help to build self-efficacy, or when used in not appropriate way, they are likely to reduce the self-efficacy. So there is mastery experience, vicarious experience, verbal persuasion, I would call it encouragement, and physiological and affective states. And we're gonna come back to those elements in a few minutes. But before we move on, there is let's try to recreate an experiment, okay? So imagine for a second, let's imagine that this is the beginning of a school year, and the director of studies just visits you when you are in the staff room and says, okay, that commencing this year, you'll have a new language group. You'll get 25 students. The level B1, intermediate, okay? So not, well, quite flexible, quite communicative, but he or she informs you that they conducted the learning language ability tests, and it seems that the whole group scored in the top sections, which means that the group will be talented and you will have diligent students. So I would call them like language boomers. It's quite likely that they will develop significantly in the language process, because you'll have good soil for this development. And now just, I want you to treat this information as if it was 100% true. Okay, and don't try to think about conspiracy theories. Just you are informed about the director of studies. This is the group. They've done the test. They scored high. They are talented and diligent. So this is the group you're gonna get. Now, can you please select anything you want from the things that you see and tell me what type of tests you're likely to use with these students, what types of exercise might appear or you'd like to appear within this class, what kind of feedback would you offer? You can try and describe, once you have this image about this group, what is your motivation towards this group? Okay, so share some information in the chat. You can select any of the points. You can also talk, what do you think about this group's motivation towards the learning process and the language acquisition? Feedback, okay. Yes, pragmatics. Okay, I would use listening, okay. So there will be quite a few new words, expressions, idioms. Ravi would go for the challenging tests. Thanks a lot, because you are dealing with talented students. So, well, talent means challenging elements. True, I agree. I would try to enrich vocabulary. I would give them challenging tasks so that they would show their talent. Yes, that's true. Storytelling or drama. Appreciate this. Watching English videos, yeah, this is like a native one, so you're gonna observe real language one. Super. And the motivation, what about your motivation towards this group? How would you describe your motivation towards this group? Your willingness to work with them. Alejandra, probably high, yes. Meaningful experience. I would be very pleased to work with them. It's a privilege. It's an honor. Yes. Super excited. I would spend hours preparing towards this lesson. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it. Now let's forget this reality. Just shake it out. And there is a different scenario. The same time, the same situation, the director of study tells you that you'll get 25 students, the same level. However, the language learning abilities test proved to be a bit different. Majority of them, or the whole group, scored in the lowest score section. So it means that you're gonna have low aptitude learners, the learners that probably might be a challenge to teach. They might be problematic. They might experience some challenges with learning. So the process might be not as smooth as it normally is. Okay, so you're gonna have like a problematic group, low aptitude. Yeah, Lilian, I saw your comment. It happens. So now, if you could share with me the same, how would you work with this group? What about your level of motivation towards this group? What about types of tests that you could use? Test them more often. Okay, a lot of repetition. Thanks a lot. Games. I would need to find methods to teach them. Yes, more visuals probably to support new vocabulary. I would try to connect with them more often. Do something to get them engaged. Practice, interactive materials. Okay, games and creative exercises. Yes, that's true. Motivation. How would you describe your motivation towards this group? Just imagine that you're gonna get this group. This is the information from the director of studies. How motivated. I would be willing to encourage them. I would like to change their low standards. Okay, more challenge activities. Okay, I would see this as a challenge. Okay, make them go further, bring exciting activities. Okay, thanks a lot. So let's forget about it right now and come back to the reality, because what we did, we tried to recreate one of the first experiments that laid foundation for something which we know in science as self-fulfilling prophecies. This experiment was conducted by Rosenthal and his friend Jacobson, a teacher in one of the schools in San Francisco, 1960s. Is what they did is they informed the teacher that they did the IQ test before the beginning of a school year. And they informed the teacher that 20% of your group are intellectual boomers. So it means that their score was higher than the rest of the group. And just they pointed out who those people were, okay? And then they returned to this group after a year and they conducted the test again. And the results actually confirmed that those intellectual boomers, as they referred to them, they showed bigger improvement as when they were compared against the other student. However, there was a slight trick within this experiment. And probably you might know what the trick was. So the Rosenthal actually selected those students completely at random. At the very beginning, those students didn't have any higher scores. They were just as the rest of the class. And for some reason, by the end of the year, when they conducted the test again, they showed a slight but still visible improvement when compared with the rest of the group. Of course, the number one predictive factor of improvement is the effort of the student. That's it, okay? So if you work hard, you will show effort. However, when they talked with the teacher, it seemed that there was another element that played a role. It seemed that those teachers treated them in a bit different way. It means that they were creating, as the researcher referred, a flourishing climate. So like the feedback was varied. Those students were encouraged to deal with challenging tasks in a bit more, okay? And they were given more chances to demonstrate their skills, that they were intellectual boomers. And as I told you, this laid foundation for the substantial amount of research about self-fulfilling prophecy. The self-fulfilling prophecy right now, there is more than 300 experiments confirming that yes, it exists. The effect of self-fulfilling prophecy is small, but visible, because as I told you at the very beginning, the effort of a particular person is number one predictor of development. However, what you see right now, for example, the Claude Steele is dealing with the self-fulfilling prophecy. And he proved in his research that, for example, when students are asked to name their ethnicity on a test, and this ethnicity is in minority, it will affect their score. When, for example, they are informed that this type of ethnicity usually scores higher or lower, it shows a difference of 10 points in intellectual quotient tests. And of course, we have the famous sentences around the world like girls do better at, boys do better at. Can you please try and complete those sentences, okay? Girls do better at and boys do better at. So girls do better at, any ideas? At everything, Jessica. Yes, girls do better at everything. At literacy activities, do many things at the same time, at nursing, at grammar. What about boys? Boys do better at hard sciences, at mathematics. Yes, girls are better in studying, William. So the self-fulfilling prophecy, how does it work? Usually, self-fulfilling, boys do better at sports. Yes, girls do better at many things, Pamela. Appreciate it. That's true. So the self-fulfilling prophecy, the situation is like a person creates a hypothesis. In most cases, this is the false hypothesis, okay? And then this person initiates a behavior towards the object of this hypothesis, for example, a different person or different group, and this behavior initiates the behavior of the other side, confirming this hypothesis. So in a bit creative way. Imagine there is a situation that I live in a block of flats and there is a new person living next door. And in the morning, when I look at this person through the window, I see like, I think that this is a very aggressive person because he never smiles. He wears black leather all the time and he has this angry look on his face. Yeah. So I'm going to check my hypothesis. So the next time I'm going to meet him in the park, I'm going to throw a stone at his dog to see his reaction. And I do it. And the guy clenches his fist and it becomes very aggressive and hostile. And I say to myself, I knew it. I knew it that this person was a very aggressive man. Of course, this is just exaggeration, but the exaggeration to paint the picture. For example, if you say that girls will do better at creative activities, subconsciously, unconsciously, you can expose them to a wider range of creative activities. And because of the fact that they are exposed to those activities, they start to learn and to develop creativity. And then you say like, oh my God, I knew it. Okay, the girls are better at creative activities, but it might be the case that your behavior initiated that development. Of course, when it comes to teaching, the self-fulfilling prophecy works only at the very beginning. It was like recreated in a further research. So because after 2 or 3 months, teachers, you already know if the person is intellectual boomer or it was just a fake and it's not developing. So then you just reconstruct your belief. So this is the first element. Sometimes our influence can have influence on the behavior of other people. The second element will just go to a bit different reality. We'll just start observing children as one of the psychologists used to do. And she discovered that children develop something which is called the naive theories of intelligence. Carol Dweck and her wonderful research. So what do we mean by naive theories of intelligence? When she was observing children, and especially when they were facing difficulties and they were facing failures in education, in doing different tasks, etc. The basic distinction was that those children could be divided into the helpless children and resourceful children. And now a bit deeper explanation. So those helpless, they created or they had something which is called entity beliefs. Entity beliefs means that they believed that they were shaped and fixed, and there is nothing that could possibly change their nature. So imagine that they thought of themselves that they were stones. They were hard stones, and you cannot modify stone because stone is a stone. And those resourceful children, they had something which was referred to as incremental belief. Incremental suggesting the growth. So although they knew that they were shaped in a way, they had this belief that they can change themselves, so as if the stone was made of some elastic substance and that it could be developed, it could be changed. An interesting observation was when the entity belief was confronted with a goal, the goal for them was only to meet their requirements. For example, I need to get an A, B, C, whatever, okay? Incremental beliefs, the goal was treated as something to learn something new, okay? Although there is an expectation to reach a desired score, but the goal which is above for me was to learn something new. Now let's concentrate on entity beliefs for a while. Can you try to predict and guess what was the reaction to difficulty in the group of helpless children? What do they think about this difficulty? What was their emotional reaction when they were dealing with difficulty? What was the source of? They were scared, probably. They felt stuck. Frustration, yes. They could be frustrated. Probably, Pamela, they were stressed. That's true. What do they think about the source of the problem? Okay. Where was the source of the problem? Anxiety. The source of the problem, probably confidence. They were hopeless. The task was too demanding. What do you think about their motivation to overcome the challenge? The motivation was on a very low level. Yeah. And the perseverance. Yeah. No motivation and helplessness. Yes, that's true. So those entity beliefs, when they faced difficulty, usually the reaction was, sorry, I can't do anything about it. That's the way I've been formed and I've been shaped. If I failed, it means that I failed. I cannot change it. The difficulty was a threat. So as you correctly stated, there was frustration, there was anxiety, there was anger. That's why some people say, I don't like learning languages, or this teacher is X, Y, and Z. Okay, the school is stupid, or whatever. The source of the difficulty, they were saying, okay, I don't have the skills. When I was being produced, they didn't install the software inside me to cope with the reading activities. Sorry, I don't like English. Sorry, that's way too much. The motivation was external and the perseverance was small. And probably you can guess what happens with the incremental children. So those who had, they were believing they were resourceful. Okay, so when the difficulty just loomed on the horizon, they were just digging in the resources. And the difficulty was always a challenge for them. It was like, okay, let's try to roll with this element, okay? Emotional reaction, of course, there was an element of stress, but it was visible, the curiosity was also visible, and just being live, that something is happening. And lack of skills, and this time it was the lack of effort. So it's not the fact that I can't do it. I didn't try hard enough. Maybe I should have studied harder, and it might have been different in this way. The motivation was coming from within, and they were risk takers, and they were characterized, their perseverance was characterized as rather big. So it was difficult. It was not impossible that they were going on and on and on before they finally gave up. So that was the wonderful foundation of something which you already know, the growth mindset and the fixed mindset that's become so popular nowadays. These are the example of a person with entity beliefs, okay, that forget about good essays. Why bother trying? Sorry, it's not for me. Please remember that it can be also visible in positive terms. That was a piece of cake. I'm just a genius. Remember, genius, like a feature of character, is not that I tried really hard and I worked hard toward it. I'm just a genius. Well, just congratulate me. What a stupid mistake. I will never get there. I will never get a desired score. Okay, on the opposite direction, you've got the incremental belief, the beautiful word yet. I don't know how to learn it effectively yet. How can I improve in this field? Let's try something different. And I spent many hours on this assignment. And basically the score reflects my effort, okay? And the first element, when you want to deal with self-efficacy, you need to know whether you are dealing with the entity belief or the incremental belief. So maybe someone is saying it's fixed, or someone is saying it's growth-oriented. And the trap is to listen to them when everything is going fine. Because when everything is going fine, all the people are growth-oriented. They are flexible, they can develop, they see possibilities, etc., etc. But we need to pay extra attention when everything is going wrong. Okay, this is the situation when you are likely to hear your students saying things that usually will characterize them either as being fixed or either as being growth-oriented. And in cognitive-based CBT therapy, we know that there are 6 potholes that we should pay attention to when someone will be talking about something in this situation. So the first one is like they will be dealing with something which is challenging and that they value. For example, there is an oral presentation coming within the next weeks, the most important oral presentation within the language classroom. when they will be experiencing something which is difficult, and they will need to put their effort inside. Okay, it's not like it's not gonna be smoothed by the numbers. They will need to work harder. When they will be evaluating their progress, or when you'll be evaluating their progress, they are likely to say some things. Oh, maybe I'm not just good enough. That's too much for me. Maybe it's not for me. When they will be making mistakes, praise and criticism. This is like when you offer praise or you offer some critical remarks, they are likely to respond in a way. And interesting, when they will be hearing about the success and failures of other people. So they will be making comparisons, and you will hear them saying, well, he's just natural born speaker, and that's the way he scores higher. He's just a perfect reader. It seems it runs in his family. My situation is completely different. So pay extra attention to what they say when they deal with these situations. Okay. And now, things you can do to help them to boost self-efficacy. Okay. Especially that the aim is to show how students can just gain this self-efficacy so that they would believe that they can master the process, and they can achieve the score that they want, hopefully to learn something new. The first one is mastery experience. By far, according to science, this is the single biggest predictor of self-efficacy and improvement. Just observing yourself when you experience success, when you are going through something. So the strategy is to implement in the classroom reality the strategies, the question type, so that especially low efficacy students will say like, oh, I'm already doing it. So I don't have to work any harder, because right now I can see myself dealing with this listening activity. So the strategy is to go for something which is called by Anders Ericsson, effortful learning. So offering a piece of language, a piece of grammar, or a piece of vocabulary, or a listening, or a video, which is slightly above their current level of competence. Because when you have high self-efficacy students, you can give them way too challenging tasks, and they will try to deal with it. They will not give up. But low self-efficacy students, that might be too much for them, and they say like, okay, I cannot go any further. So you need to offer something which is slightly above their current level of competence. That's why, for example, the global scale of English can come in handy, because you can precisely select the piece of material. Some of you said chunking. Yes, dividing the element into separate parts. Progress chart, which is important because we're going to talk about other people. I had the chance to work with the progress charts several times. One of the time it was when we were training with the speed reading activities. And the speed reading activity, each of us had a progress chart, individual one, and I was comparing myself with myself. Okay, so I could compare my time, my score, with the previous reading activity and the previous reading activity, and it lasted 2 or 3 months. We never compared against each other. Okay, so to show the development is to see where you are yesterday and where you are today. Important element is success talk and failure talk, because when your students experience success, especially those low self-efficacy, you should allow them to be within this moment of success. Okay, you should allow them to be in the moment. So allow them to spend some time and talk about what did they do that they managed to complete the task. How do they feel when they complete the task? Okay, what were the good things about the task? The contradictory approach is when, for example, you deal with the students, and the students, they scored really, really high. They scored, that's just, my son came from kindergarten. So they were dealing with the challenging task. They were successful, and the teacher says like, okay, so now your score is 85%. So let's don't spend any time on it, and let's deal with something that that was not so successful. So you immediately shift to mistakes. Okay, so spend some time talking about the success as well. Feed forward. This is the inspiration for you. Google Marshall Goldsmith feed forward strategies and see if it corresponds to your teaching reality. So basically, it's like a slight variation of feedback, but feed forward is like allowing a person to bring future into the reality. So what can you do differently next time to make it better? What strategies can you implement during the next writing activity? Okay, is there anything that you haven't tried and you like to try within the next presentation? So whenever you offer feed forward, you just make it future oriented instead of saying, okay, these were your mistake, let's try to correct them. Okay, address the mistakes, but make it future oriented. The second option, vicarious experience, is like observing other people succeed in a particular item types. And now you have two variations. Either you can select those language stars as mastery models. So for example, you've got the language class and you say, okay, Tony, you were the best at this speaking activity. Could you please stand up or unmute yourself and present your speech? And Tony goes like, da, 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 and it's like, wow, congratulations. You see, Tony is like perfect. So this is the mastery model showing how to do something flawlessly. When you deal with low self-efficacy students, it might be not so effective. It's better to transform those language stars into the coping models. Coping model means that you ask Tony, the language star, to show how they've learned the skills that allowed them to score 100% on this question type. So instead of saying, can you present your answer and present your speech, you ask them, okay, Tony, could you tell the class about the steps you've taken in order to produce this type of presentation? Okay, so mastery model versus coping model. Because please remember that in psychology, in social psychology, we know about upward and downward comparisons. Downward comparisons, I compare myself against someone weaker or worse than me. And the only reasonable explanation is that when you make downward comparisons, is like you want to improve your affective state by saying, okay, it could have been much worse, but downward comparisons, they don't produce inspiration. Upward comparisons, I compare myself against someone better than me, but the teachers and the students, they need to be taught how to make these upward comparisons. For example, by transforming the language stars into coping models, not the mastery models. And the upward comparison should give an inspiration. If this is possible for Tony, it's also possible for me. And I need to discover what Tony does to get 100% on a particular test, okay? The third element is verbal persuasion. I would call it verbal encouragement. So think of the last coping model. Coping model might help with low self-efficacy student. So yes, Ruby, try to experiment and say, like, okay, can you demonstrate in the class, Tony, what did you do to get this high score? Okay, how did you overcome these challenges? Instead of saying, Tony, read your answers. Oh, you see, 100% correct. Tony is smart. Okay, coping model when you deal with low self-efficacy, just to boot it. Okay, so the verbal encouragement. So first of all, it needs to be credible. Imagine that you are my students and you are somewhere 50% on every test. Whenever you fail, I keep saying to you, okay, I'm so proud of you. You're working hard. You're gonna make it. Good job. I'm proud of you. Good job. Keep going, etc. How would you treat this type of pricing? your scores are not really high. And I keep saying, well done, good job, not genuine, Isabel. Yes, that's true. So please remember that whenever you deal with another human being, you are likely to, you probably are dealing with intelligent human being to some extent. And sooner or later, they will discover what Isabel wrote, that you are not genuine in your words of praise. If you are not authentic, then they will not take it seriously. So offer the word of praise when it's credible and you see that they've really, really earned it. There are two variations. Either you can appreciate the success of the person, or you can appreciate the effort. Okay, so I saw that you tried really, really hard. And it shows that you are committed towards this task. You can appreciate the effort. But if the result is low, there is not much sense saying that congratulations on your result. Okay, so appreciate when it's credible and they truly deserve it. Okay. Of course, they will be making mistakes. It's a natural process and you already know it. So either you can go for the corrective feedback just to show them how to correct mistakes. You can paraphrase the question. You can ask the question again. You can reteach the skills to do this activity, okay? We had reorder paragraphs and there are some mistakes. So let's try to go, let's go again through all the skills that we need to master to do reorder paragraph effectively. So you reteach the skills so that they could correct the mistakes, okay? The process feedback basically is when your students, they have correct answers, but they are not sure why they are correct or incorrect. This is like multiple choice, single answer or multiple answer. And then you need to, and then you teach them, okay? You present, you indicate why this answer is correct. You teach them these strategies before they finish particular question type. They need to be sure why this answer is correct or incorrect. Or you can offer prompts instead of offering a straight answer. Like you see a person is struggling and you can offer visual prompts, or you can say something like, let's say, Tony, during the last reading activity, you told me that the word, I don't know, superficial was really hard for you. When you look at the current text, are there any words that you would name hard as you named superficial in the previous text? So the word superficial is a prompt. It appeared in the previous reading, but the prompt is for him to focus on the word with a similar level of difficulties that are challenging for him. So there are several variations, and I'm sure you know it, how to offer this type of feedback. And the last one, when you are dealing with something challenging before the test, before the oral presentation, before something challenging, sooner or later, most of us will experience anxiety, okay? Can you share with me some ideas within the chat? How can you tell that people experience anxiety? Okay, what is happening inside them when they get anxious? When they experience anxiety, what is happening? The thoughts are very insecure. Yes. They could cry. The heartbeat, definitely. The body language, that's true. They can try to, they can shrink. Yes, that's true. They can shake. Okay. They get upset. Pauses in their speech. Okay. There is a fear. Okay. That I will need to do something. I will need to explain something. They give up. That's true. Because they feel anxious because the task is too difficult for them. Yes, they feel overwhelmed. Thanks a lot. So please remember that there are some somatic information, emotions, the beauty of our existence. And there are somatic information, the heartbeat, the sweat, the difficulty in getting the thoughts together, looking down, the shaking, this insecurity, lack of concentration. And we have a tendency to read this information as a sign of dysfunction, that something is wrong. And when something is wrong, the best option is to avoid this situation. So when I experience anxiety, I might not answer the question. I might try to avoid getting into interaction with the teacher for some reason, or I may try to skip my homework, or I may try to skip the exam question type. So the role of us is to implement within the language classroom some small bits of different activities that can help them to regulate the affective, the somatic state. One of the options is Jacobson relaxation. I do it frequently in my physical workshops. So it could take, the very short version could take 1 or 2 minutes. The long version could take up to 20, 25 minutes to be done at home. It's basically the group sits together and you give the instruction, or you play the instruction from the internet, and you ask them to flex and relax their muscles. Okay, just to show them that when they experience anxiety, they are usually tense. So you need to show them how to relax their muscles. There is no shortage of alternatives when it comes to the breathing activities. Okay, you get to the yoga classes, counting to 10. Yes, the deep breaths, not from your chest, but from your belly. And it could take exactly 1 or 2 minutes before the important task that they will be doing during the language classes. My 2 ones that I usually do, the one is a very, and I like it, it's called the dance of your life. So the language reality looks like this, that you collect the list of all the favorite songs provided by your students, and you have the Spotify list or whatever, the YouTube, and every lesson or so, or before the challenging task, you select the song at random, they stand up, and their task is to dance the most beautiful dance of their life. Okay, and you play the music and you enjoy the show. You can ask them to form pairs. One of the person is doing the best dance of their life, and the other person has to do the 100% mirroring, and just they danced in front of each other. So this is basically a nice activity to release the tension. Or the gummy bears. I like to keep the pack of gummy bears, and you give a gummy bear per pen. I definitely will try it with my kids. Yes, try it with kids, but try it with adult people as well. My observation is that adult people just enjoy, majority of them enjoy the dance of their life, and it's a kind of therapy. It's an element of therapy. You can do it individually at home when no one is watching. Just you play your favorite song and you dance the best dance of your life, just to get the energy from your body. The gummy bear, you give a gummy bear per person, one only, okay? They have 1 minute, they put the gummy bear in their mouth, and they need to be a Sherlock Holmes. So they need to discover as many features of a gummy bear as possible without swallowing or biting them. And you finish this activity, depending on the language level, you can develop it into a nice vocabulary section, actually, when they share their discoveries. Was it soft? Was it hard? What about the surface? What about the taste? Was it fruit or vegetable? What about your general feelings? How was it? And then you try to let them describe it. And of course, this is the beautiful and gentle introduction to being mindful. So probably when you have anxious students before the test, they could think about the worst case scenario. They could catastrophize. And the worst thing you can do is say, try to calm down, or don't be so nervous. And it doesn't work. And they get anxious even more. You need to offer something so that for this 1 minute, they will switch their cognition into something which is neutral, like, for example, a gummy bear. Or you can try, if you don't have the gummy bear, you ask them to take a pen, and during the 1 minute, they need to discover as many details as possible of this particular pen. If you like listening activities, you let them to open the window and to listen to the sounds of the city for 1 minute, just to shift their direction. Okay, this is true. What we know is that the more things you use, which is closely related to your students' interest, the higher the engagement. There is a strategy of offering choice, which is okay. So you can offer the choice of the assignments. You can prepare a list of the assignments and ask them, you have the autonomy, please decide what type of assignment you like to do. You can offer a choice when it comes to the deadline. Sometimes you can play with the choice of the grading policy. But one element important, please remember, when you offer the choice and you have self-efficacy high and low self-efficacy students, the choice should be offered to the whole classroom. The worst thing you can do is to offer the choice only to the low self-efficacy students. And they will discover that something is wrong. Like, why is it so that half of the group, they received an essay, one single essay, and me and my friend, we've just received a selection of different essays to choose from. There must be something wrong, and it might be us, okay? When you offer the choice, all the group should be included, okay? And the final one, please remember, this is I learned from one of my, I used to train boxing a long time ago when I was in high school. And this coach used to say that every training should finish with a sense of achievement. Okay, and then when I got into the psychology, I got into the trainings and workshops and being with people, and I say like every lesson should finish with a sense of achievement. So during my education, I've had numerous examples that every lesson finished in a way, okay, time's up, homework page 29, do X, Y, and Z, period. Okay, and the teacher probably didn't know whether we've learned something, whether we feel that there was a single element within this class that actually made us a bit better, a bit different. It wasn't until I got into the private courses and the psychology and the motivation, etc., that there was a professor finishing the lesson, like, okay, what have you learned in the lesson? Give me one word or one sentence. Either you can make a notebook, or you can just jot it down at the end of your notebook, or you can say to me when you'll be leaving the classroom and give me high five, one word or one sentence, so that even the low self-efficacy students would get this feeling, it was hard, it was challenging, but I've learned, I don't know, 3 new words, okay? And in course of time, this is the slow road to building self-efficacy, that it could be challenging, but I'm still learning, okay? And the final part, I've heard this strategy that there was a teacher who used to, when you give a test, instead of putting an F, like failed, you just design a beautiful red stamp, and instead of putting an F, you put a 2 words, not yet. Think about the meaning of a not yet. It doesn't say that you are over and you are done. It's just saying that at this moment, it's not okay, but it doesn't suggest it's final. It suggests that the future is still open. So the very fact that you failed at the reading activities right now and you receive not yet, it gives you the signal, that the future is open and it's not close, okay? That you can improve yourself. So this is showing this beauty of growth mindset. And the final one, I use it, this magic word, very often, appreciate it and just spread the knowledge because it works. And the final one, when you deal with self-efficacy, so there are 2 important elements. You need to deal, probably it would be good if you could deal with the self-efficacy of your students, but you should be privileged and you should be honored that you can work with the self-efficacy when it comes to you as a teacher or when it comes to you as a person. Because maybe you want to teach self-efficacy, but deep inside you are missing some elements in the self-efficacy. So I decided to put some questions for you as an inspiration. It's like the very first one is about your own victories? How can I allow myself to see and acknowledge my own successes? Okay. What should I do just to be in a position that I can notice things when I'm successful? What do I need to do just to be within this success? Okay. Or maybe I'm the person who sees the mistakes only. Okay. How can I allow myself to benefit from observing others? Okay. What do I need to do? Because probably you have a lot of teachers around you and you might say like, oh my God, there is a really good teachers with the IT things and he or she could be my mentor. So how could I allow myself to benefit from observing others, to learn? Because, well, my reality showed that, for example, that this co-observation lessons in language school took place twice a year only. So it was like 10 months without any peer-to-peer observation. Whereas you have wonderful teachers around you that you can benefit from learning from them. Okay. And what kind of feedback do you need to progress? Because the same situation, sometimes you get feedback once a year if you are lucky. So if it's not enough for you and you know that to build self-efficacy, to build this incremental belief, you need feedback. So you need to initiate it. Okay, say like, okay, every 2 weeks or every month, dear students, I appreciate that you are with me, that you're working really hard. If you were to make our lessons even more interesting, what would you do in this lesson? Okay, and you can ask your fellow teachers, give me the feedbacks on the things that I do. Give me the things of the elements I could do differently next month. Okay. And the last one, we also experience emotional states. So it's not only about the dance of your life to your student and a gummy bear to your student, but it's also about managing your affective states when you are dealing with a challenging classroom. Okay. Not yet the gladiator. Yes, that's true. So that would be all when it comes to the self-efficacy. So the question to you, what is your takeaway? A single word or a single sentence? As I told you, every lesson should finish with a sense of accomplishment. What is your takeaway? Single word, single strategy, single observation. Please do share it in the chat. The strategies, motivation, introspection, not only for the student and for the teacher. Yes. Show appreciation. Every lesson should contain a meaning. The ideas. Thanks a lot. Single word or phrases of motivation. Thanks, Philippa. Accomplishment, being mindful. Deal with the emotional states, Luis. Meaningful learnings. Capitalize on choice and interest. Ask your students, what do they like? Okay, being aware, appreciate. So once you have it, quickly jot down by the end one of the strategies and implement these strategies. Give yourself a month or two to experiment with this strategy. And then by the end of this period, gather feedback, reformulate, and do it again. And probably by the end of the next year or 2 years, when you'll meet with us or with a different person, you could be a teacher on a bit different level. Okay. Please remember that the next month, Teacher Training Academy, this time we'll talk about developing listening skills, so exam orientation. So this is a Teacher Training Academy where you can register for the session. I'm really grateful for your interaction today, for your ideas, and for using the chat. And I really appreciate your time, and I hope that you're gonna enjoy the rest of your day, if it's starting or the evening. All the best to you. Thank you. Thanks a lot.